Sections 4, 5, 6 and 7 involve reading texts. Section 4 is a gap fill activity. Test takers have to read 5 short texts of various types, either labels, instructions, signs, notices, menus, advertisements, or announcements. Each text contains a gap, and a test taker chooses which of 3 answer options is the missing word or phrase. To do the task properly, they have to show they understand the purpose, structure, and main idea of the text. Tips. Show students how analysing the purpose and type of text may help them eliminate wrong options. The short texts in Section 4 come from a range of sources, such as notices and advertisements, signs, labels, and instructions. Test takers should read the gap text first and decide why it was written. They should ask themselves, what type of text is this? What's the writer's purpose? They can then rule out any options that do not fit the overall aim of the writer. Tips. Ensure students read through the completed text. Test takers should always double-check gap fill answers by rereading the text with the option they've selected inserted in the gap. This is particularly important when the options are phrases rather than single words, because it is easier to miss the problems. Train your students to check that the text makes sense in terms of meaning when their chosen option is added. If it changes concept or contradicts itself, they may need to review the option they originally chose. Section 5 also comprises a 3-option multiple choice item type, but this time there are no gaps to fill. Depending on the level, there might be 5 short texts or 1 extended text. Test takers read the text or texts and match the correct picture, answer questions, complete sentences from a choice of 3 options. Now, the text here will be at lower levels, descriptions or directions relating to pictures, maps or diagrams. And at higher levels, newspaper articles, magazine articles, leaflets, brochures and website articles. This activity assesses ability to understand the main detail in a short text or the main ideas in an extended written text. Tips. Train students to highlight keywords in the prompt. In multiple choice questions, test takers should highlight the keywords in the prompt before they read the text. These words will tell them what information they need to find in the text. They should use the keywords to scan for the right place in the text. They should read around the keywords to understand the information so that they can complete the task correctly. Section 6 is the most typical kind of reading task. At all levels, test takers read 2 texts and then have to answer a set of 4 open-ended questions about each of them. Depending on the level, the text types include letters, emails, leaflets, brochures, articles, this sort of thing. In this task, test takers have to show that they are able to understand the main points of a short or extended written text. Tips. Train students to answer concisely and focus on meaning. In short answer question, test takers should write only the word or words that answer the question. If they write long answers with unnecessary words, time will be wasted. To avoid this, train your students to answer questions briefly and accurately using words or phrases from the text where appropriate. Tips. Train students to highlight the keywords in the questions. Test takers need to focus on the keywords in the question. These are often question words such as what, why, how, when, and words that carry meaning such as nouns and verbs. These words will tell them exactly what information they need to find in order to produce a short, accurate answer. Section 7 is very similar to Section 3, but it assesses reading skills. It is also a text or note completion task. Test takers read a text and use information from it to fill 7 gaps in a second incomplete text or notes. They'll have to work on either letters or emails or advertisements, and at higher levels, articles and extracts from textbooks. Tips. Train students to turn note prompts into questions. If the questions are in the form of notes, which may consist of a word or words, a prompt followed by a colon, train your students to chain the prompts into questions in their minds. This will help them understand the information they need to complete the notes. Tips. Ensure that students check each answer is correct in terms of meaning and grammar. When test takers are completing sentences, they must check that the incomplete sentence with their answer inserted makes sense and is grammatically correct. They need to use key words to look for information and grammatical clues to decide what kind of word is needed. Train your students to read through all their answers before going on to the next section. Section 8 and 9 involve writing two different kinds of texts. Section 8 is again special because it requires combining two skills, reading and writing. A test taker will have to write an email, a postcard, a note, a letter, or a blog entry based on the information given in Section 7. The instructions specify the purpose of the text, e.g., write a postcard from the holiday described in Section 7, the recipient, for example, to a friend, the intended content, e.g., and include the following information. The task aims to assess ability to write a piece of correspondence. Tips. Make students aware of the requirements of different forms of correspondence. Students need to practice identifying and reading the forms of correspondence possible at their level, so that they become aware of the different levels of formality that are appropriate for each of these genres: informal, neutral, semi-formal, and formal. Tips. Teach students the importance of identifying the audience. Tell your students that all correspondence is a form of communication that has a reader, known or unknown. Instruct them to look closely at the task and highlight the words that tell them what they're writing and who they're writing to. In addition to providing information about the form of the writing, this will also help them to identify the level of formality that is required. Tips. Teach students how to understand the purpose of the correspondence. Tell your students that all written messages have a purpose. In Section 8, the purpose is captured in the bullet points. Train students to read the bullet points and interpret the purpose of each one. One way of doing this is to turn the bullet points into questions. Section 9 gives test takers a choice. They choose from two options. What they write will vary depending on the level. At the lowest levels, students work with a picture or pictures, and they write either a short story, a description, or a diary entry. Starting from level 2, test takers write from their own experience, knowledge, or imagination. Now, the form of the text they may write could be factual, for example, a leaflet, blog entry, article, news advert, that sort of thing, or critical, a review, a report, or an essay, or even analytical, an essay or an analysis of issue or argument, or even an explanation of an argument. Tips. Draw students' attention to the type of writing required. At level A11, test takers are required to choose a topic from two picture-based inputs. Before they study the pictures, train your students to read the instructions for both topics and highlight words that tell them what type of writing they need to produce and what tenses they need to use. This will help ensure that they address the task in the correct form and style. Tips. Show students how to use the task prompt to structure their response. Before they start writing, test takers should go through the prompt very carefully and highlight all the content points that they need to cover. They can then use these to build the content of their response and organize their answer.